A to Z Mysteries. Book number 25. The Yellow Yacht by Ron Roy. Chapter 3. The kids spent the next couple of days exploring near. Sammy showed the kids a small park where parrots lived in the trees. He took them to a glass-blowing factory where they watched a man blow red molten glass into delicate animals. They stopped at a food stall and ate hot meat sandwiches and drank lemon-flavored drinks. Once or twice, Dink noticed the man he'd seen peeking out of his bedroom in the castle. Dink asked Sammy about the man, but Sammy just shrugged. "He must be a friend of my father," was all Sammy would say. On the third day of their visit, the kids were relaxing on a small beach. They sat in the sand and took off their sandals. The sun, puffy clouds, and boats made a beautiful picture. Out in the harbor, the yellow yacht sat peacefully in the turquoise water. Every now and then, men wearing scuba gear would either jump off the boat or climb aboard. They carried mesh bags and wore long black flippers on their feet. The kids recognized Dr. Score as he walked about on the deck. "Maybe they're looking at the fish," Josh suggested. "Dr. Score told my father he's studying coral," Sammy said. "But there's a lot more coral outside the harbor," he said. "His boat looks so cool. I wish we could go aboard," Ruth Rose said as she put her feet in the water. "My father will arrange it," Sammy said. Josh looked at him. "He can do that?" Sammy grinned. "He is the king, Josh." Just then, Finn showed up with a few other servants, each carrying a large basket. A few minutes later, they had set up a table and loaded it with food. "Lunch is served," Finn announced in Caustian, and Sammy translated. The kids loaded up plates and sat in folding chairs. The servants handed them cold drinks and cloth napkins. "Oh my gosh, I just remembered," Ruth Rose cried. "Today's your birthday, Sammy. Happy birthday." Sammy blushed. "My parents are giving me a party tonight," he said. "Cool," Josh said. "Will there be a cake?" Before Sammy could answer, they heard a shrieking whistle. The noise was coming from town. "What is that?" Dink asked Sammy. "It's an alarm," Sammy said. He stood up and looked toward town. "It looks like it's coming from the aquarium site." Finn leaned over and spoke urgently to Sammy in their language. "Finn says he thinks it's the bank," Sammy said. "Come on." The kids left their plates on their seats and raced toward the bank. Finn ran beside Sammy. When they reached the bank, the door opened and a man burst outside. "That's Mr. Lee's boss, the manager of the bank," Sammy said. He ran over to Mr. Boz, who began speaking in rapid Caustian. His eyes were bulging and he waved his hands in the air as he spoke. Finn dug out a cell phone from inside his robe and dialed a number. People came out of nearby shops to see what was the matter. Sammy returned to the kids. His face was pale. "Mr. Baz said the bank vault has been broken into." "Did they take anything?" Ruth Rose asked. Sammy gulped. "Yes, all my father's gold is gone." Chapter 4. Sammy said something to Mr. Boz, and the man nodded. He walked back into the bank with Finn and the kids at his heels. Mr. Boz took them to the vault. The door was wide open. Inside, they could see a hole in the vault floor. Chunks of stone and concrete lay next to the opening. Mr. Boz spoke excitedly to Sammy, then hurried away. The kids peered down inside the hole. "There's a tunnel down there," Ruth Rose said. "The crooks dug their way in from outside somewhere." Dink looked around the empty vault. The only thing he saw was a wide wooden platform. "Where was the gold kept?" he asked. Sammy pointed to the pallet. "It was stacked there," he said glumly. 52 bars. Dink knew that much gold would be very heavy. He wondered how anyone could carry it away. Just then, Sammy's father rushed into the bank vault, followed by a man and a woman wearing police uniforms. Mr. Baz stood beside them. It was cool in the vault, but Dink noticed that Mr. Baz was sweating. The king got on his knees to examine the hole, then stood up. "The tunnel was dug from the aquarium pit," he said. "Please check it, officers." The king turned to Mr. Baz. "Let's go into your office, Liz," he said. "Finn, will you come too, please? I'd like a witness to our conversation." After the three men left, Sammy leaned close to Dink. "Let's follow the cops," he whispered. The four kids scooted out of the bank and walked to the edge of the construction site. Down in the pit, the officers were already talking to Rico and two other workers. The kids moved closer so they could hear what was going on. They saw the policeman checking out the boulders lined up near the edge of the pit. He gave one of the boulders a tug. "Hey, these things are fake!" he shouted in English. "They hardly weigh anything." To prove it, the man rolled the boulder out of line. It was as tall as him, but he moved it easily. "They're all artificial," Rico said. "They'll be used inside the aquarium when it's finished. Real boulders would be too heavy." "Let's move them," the policewoman said. Rico and his workers helped roll the boulders aside. It took only a few minutes to find the tunnel opening. The policeman crawled into the tunnel while everyone else watched. He backed out 2 minutes later. "There's food wrappers in the dirt," the officer reported. "I have a feeling someone spent a lot of time digging the tunnel." The other officer looked at Rico. "Can you explain how anyone could have dug that tunnel without your knowledge?" she asked. Rico shook his head. "The tunnel was hidden behind the boulders. How was I supposed to know?" he asked. "But you're in charge here, right, sir?" the policewoman asked. "That's right," Rico said. "I'm the site foreman." The officer beckoned to her partner to join her. "We need you gentlemen to come with us while we sort this out," she said. One of the workmen started to pull away, but Rico stopped him. "Sure, we'll go with you," Rico said. He led them to a sloping part of the pit, where the heavy machinery was driven in and out. "Do you think Rico did it?" Ruth Rose asked Sammy, when the officers and crew were gone. "I hope not," Sammy said. "He seems like such a nice guy." Josh peered inside the tunnel entrance. "It must have taken the crooks a while to dig this thing," he said. "Let's check it out," Dink said. The kids dropped to their knees and crawled into the tunnel. Dink went first, followed by Josh, then Ruth Rose. Sammy came last. The tunnel was about the length of 2 school buses, but too low to allow standing up. The dirt under their knees was mostly sand and pebbles. The kids could see with the help of dim light coming from both ends of the tunnel. They stopped in a spot that was wider than the rest of the passageway. 10 feet ahead, the tunnel sloped upward to the bank vault. "Look at all this junk," Josh said. He pointed to a pile of burger wrappers and soda cans. Dink kicked at the food debris. "I'd say he was in here a few days at least." "Wait, what's that?" Josh said. He scooted forward and grabbed a paper that Dink's sneaker had revealed. "It's some kind of note," Dink said, looking over Josh's shoulder. "But it's written in Costrin, Sammy." The kids hunched together while Sammy quickly read the note. "This is impossible," Sammy said after a minute. "What does it say?" Ruth Rose asked. Sammy pointed to the words. "This was written to Rico," he explained. "It tells him to dump the gold over the wall, where someone else will load it into a truck and take it away." The kids stared at the strange note. "Is it signed?" Dink asked, finally. No, but there's this. Sammy pointed to the bottom of the sheet. There, in small blue letters, was an email address. lbnearbank.net. This is the bank's email address, Sammy said. Dink put his finger on the first two letters. These might be someone's initials, he said. They are, Sammy said. His dark eyes gleamed in the half light. LB stands for Lee's Boz.